scheduling and, I get it. It's a little bit challenging maybe sometimes to compete with, I think today was Micah Bromwitz, right? Is that right? Is that who was on today? Yeah. How many of you guys were on that? Did you get a chance to see it? Oh, great. How was it? Good? Yeah? Great.
Awesome.
Awesome. That's great. Was it kind of an extension of a deep dive of his SLC message?
It was like a deep dive plus 5 awesome tangents. So many tangents.
I'm just gonna say I'm thoroughly impressed with the ability to use Google Sheets. Like his spreadsheet knowledge is like nowhere. I'm like, whoa, can I have your spreadsheet knowledge, please? It's crazy. He had like, I don't know, 15 spreadsheets open with like functions and color coding, and it was great.
It was impressive. Nice. Sounds like it'd be a great skill to hire somebody to have to do for you. So it sounds like to me that would be very cool.
My sales manager is awesome with spreadsheets. She's like, I don't know why this is important. I'm like, Sarah, it is everything. And she goes, okay. So it's awesome.
That's great.
It's one of those classes that you take in college and you're never sure where it's going to come up. And then all of a sudden it does. And you can become this like Excel spreadsheet wizard. Everyone is so impressed. It's
all right.
Spreadsheets. I put my
So Jesse, your internet guy showed up an hour late. Oh no. Okay. All right. So Jesse, if you think maybe even if you use your phone, that might be helpful too. So. All right. Well, you know what we're going to do? I'm excited that we're going to record this call so that all of the amazing nuggets that are going to come from this, that you ladies have invested time to share with us today, are going to be able to, we'll post it in the Facebook group. Like I said, I get it. There's a masterclass. There's a lot of things going on Tuesday. And for the most part, I think it's a little bit of scheduling, and we just got to make sure that everybody remembers that this is the time of our call. But we will put this recording in there because on today's call, we're going to do a couple different things. So one of them is I'm going to interview Shayla. So I have a section of time here that I want to interview her because I think there's some things that she does and has a story that I think should be shared in this group specifically. There's many things that Shayla does well for the general vector manager and person that runs a business that should know. But I think even more so for this group and what we are looking to co-create and develop, I think that there's some things that would be great for her to share. So I'm going to do that today. So we'll have that recording. And then Shelby has some takeaways and some nuggets, some things she's going to share from a book called The Confidence Code, and has thought some of those things that have come up in it would be really applicable to be able to get your feedback and thoughts and teach and talk about a little bit today. And then I'm going to get your feedback on a few things. I have a couple questions for you as a group, and then we'll post that so that we can get everybody else to answer that. And so rather than us splitting into breakouts, and if you guys could, I know that so many of you have done, it's been fantastic to see you've been able to make so many of our calls, but if you could just rename yourself with your first name and then your office, your title and your office, that would be super helpful. Just as we are going to spend most of our time today in a group, that could be helpful if we, I know most of you, but I think for everyone, it would be really awesome. That'd be great. Super. That would be great. All right. And welcome, Elizabeth. You might not have capability for video, but we can see your name, which is great. So welcome to the call. All right. So I thought we could do this then. Rather than us going into, typically what we do is we start out, we go into some breakout rooms, and we get to know each other a little bit. With our small group here that's on live, why don't we today, in light of the fact that we have your US, for most of you, US Thanksgiving coming up in a couple weeks. I think that's the case, right? You guys have that. We had ours in October, and you guys have yours coming up in a couple weeks. I thought that it might be great for you guys to share just in the chat is something that you're grateful for professionally and personally. So something from both sides. Maybe it's something that's happened this weekend. Maybe it's yesterday, today. But take a minute or two to pop in the chat, something that you're grateful for personally and then something professionally. And that's what we'll do instead of going into breakouts. We'll just get you guys to pop that into the chat.
Angie, do you think we have time to share out loud? I'd love to hear some voices.
Sure. Why don't we do that? Yeah, let's do that. So okay, great. So Bianca, since you posted in yours, why don't you expand a little bit on your two? Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just said professionally, the people in this business and the SMRA program, I'm grateful for. It's a good one. And then personally, my friends, yeah,
Great.
I haven't seen them a long time, but I'm grateful for them. So they don't live here, but yeah.
But you stay connected in some capacity.
One lives here, but yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Great. Maybe Shayla, why don't you share? Is your house already decorated?
Not yet, but it snowed a foot today. We had the snowblower out, and most people look at that as like, ugh, and I'm like, yes. And so tomorrow, I know it's not great because it's Remembrance Day and you're not supposed to do that, but the kids are off school tomorrow. So it's just happening. We're gonna celebrate all the things tomorrow. So the tree's going up. Kids are in their jammies all day. Christmas movies are going on. It's gonna be a good day tomorrow. And I love the season of Christmas. So I don't necessarily just care for just the day, but I love the season of all the things: the hot chocolate, the sledding, the movies, all of it. So I'm excited for that. I'm grateful for the snow for that reason. My kids love it.
Cool. Great. Sounds good. Alexis?
So personally, I'm grateful for my Cricut maker. It's allowed me to be very creative and make a whole bunch of stuff, which is very fun and a good stress reliever. And professionally, I'm also grateful for the SMRA program. I'm gonna dive in a little bit more than I kind of just dipped my toe, but I'm gonna dive in even more with more people on the SMRA program, and I'm grateful to have that in place.
So I knew that someone was going to ask this because I didn't know until I found out what it was. So Alexis, tell people, what is a Cricut maker?
A Cricut maker is a cutting machine that you can use on paper to make like cards and stuff. So it cuts out like snowflakes, and it can do, so like you can do little stuff where it's like, it almost looks like it's printed, but it's cut out. And then you open it up and you have like a little present, and it's
Check
folded.
that out. Hey, look at everybody's like, what?
I've been doing a
Oh
lot
my
of
gosh, that's amazing.
So it's a very fancy cutting machine.
Do you have the hookup for Cricut machines? Because I've been looking at them for a hot second. And is it worth it?
Shayla's
like, yes.
If you're a creative person, then absolutely. I mean, like, my sister just asked me today to make like a shadow box with some stuff around her little baby's face and a banner, and I'm gonna use Cricut for all of that. If you're very creative, I think it's worth it. If you're gonna use it once a year, maybe not. But if you're someone who loves to like really craft, it's awesome. Like, even if you're gonna use it once a month, I highly recommend it.
You've convinced me.
You can get the
I know what I'm asking for Christmas now.
You can get the sticky stuff, so then you can make pillows. You can do I make these things for our bathroom. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
See, already you guys are like, so glad I showed up. Now I am going to get a Cricut maker. All right, sweet. Okay, Christina, how about you share? Yeah, out loud your stuff.
Me or
Yes.
Me.
Oh, we got two. Oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. So with a K, we'll go with Christina with a K.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys are both like, what?
No, I would say personally, I'm just grateful for my wife. We've actually started doing our planning hours together, like on Sundays, and mapping out our meals and doing our morning routines because she wanted to start working out with me, but she works like 9 to 6 and I hate working out at night. So now we've incorporated our morning routines together as well, with like walking the dogs and all of that stuff. And then professionally, I would agree with the SMRA program, but honestly, just being able to learn from a whole bunch of different people with the masterclass with these and getting to connect with people all over the place. Because usually in Las Vegas, we kind of feel like we're in a little bubble. So, getting to actually interact with as many people as possible has been really fun.
That's awesome. Well, how many dogs do you have, Christina?
Two. Yes.
Nice.
They were barking. That's why I had to leave for just a second.
Nice. Awesome. Great. All right. Our other Christina, Wild.
Yeah. So the whys behind what I'm grateful for are kind of the same for both. Personally, I'm really grateful for my boyfriend as well as my awesome roommates, which you might be able to hear Kelly. She just came home, but I'm really grateful for my boyfriend and my roommates. And professionally, I'm really grateful for my DVM, Danny Lewis. I know a couple of you guys know him. I know Lexi does. We're in the same division. But I've been going through a lot of stuff personally and just figuring out like what my purpose is and finding clarity in what I want to do and why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm here. And they've my boyfriend, roommates, Danny, they've all been amazing at really, love you too, at really supporting me and making sure that I'm happy with what I want to do, whether it's in the company, outside of the company, and making sure I'm just like healthy and making the right choices for me. So gratitude on them. Yep.
Fantastic. Great. All right. And Jesse, why don't you share if you can take your mute off and share, that'd be cool. If your internet will allow you to do that. If not, then that's cool too. So Jesse wrote in the chat there, grateful for reps being positive and personally grateful for she just moved into a new home and it sounds like it's almost all together. It looks like her internet might be the last thing that she's trying to put together where she's living. So that's cool. Shelby, you want to share anything?
Yeah, I have a lot to be grateful for. Personally, I'm really grateful for my family. For those of you that don't know, I have a unique family dynamic where my sister is 23 years older than I am, same parents, nobody in between. So she's kind of like a second mom. And growing up, we really weren't very close. But in the last year or so, as I've gotten married, and I feel like the age difference doesn't matter as much, I've gotten a lot closer with her. So I spent the weekend at her house over this past weekend. My cousin was there too, who I also don't spend all that much time with. I've always been the baby of my family. So to begin getting closer to the women in my life who I've always looked up to, but never felt super connected with is really cool. And they're all coming for Thanksgiving too, which will be really nice. And then professionally, I'm really grateful for this group, as small as it might be right now. I know we're on a really big mission and we're doing something really great for the company, and just diving into some of the roles that we all play in the future of our company is really exciting. So I'm just grateful to be here.
Fantastic. Great.
What about you?
Me, I'm grateful for, the snow. I mean, I love all seasons. So, that's why I live where I live.
19 years.
Oh, that's right. Today. That would be a great thing. That's awesome. I'm like, what am I grateful for? Oh yeah, my husband.
Grateful for being married for almost 2 decades.
Yes. My lovely, wonderful partner in life, my husband. Yes, he is wonderful. And so that is a great thing to be grateful for in my personal life. And then professionally, there's just I think so many of you, there's so many ways to approach and build the business. It's pretty exciting. And it's presented, I think, people with this really neat challenge of how do I focus in on what's most important, right? And what's going to help me first to move myself forward, which is really cool. So yeah, I'm thankful for this group and the people that are, excited about helping us to build this community, because as you're all aware of, which I'll mention kind of near the end of this call, which was mentioned at SLC, right? We have had an exponential increase in female recruiting on the rep side. That doesn't always translate from rep to manager, right? It's not always a like boom, 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 right? That's not always the case. So I think that our group of people here, these women that are in the leadership roles that they're in, I believe have a very unique and important opportunity to give feedback to decisions and training that could happen over the months to come to support the growth of the female recruiting increase into leadership roles. And so, I've been in the business a long time, and I'm not naive to think that things just happen because. I think that there are things we put in place to set us up for success. And I think that it's going to take some real feedback from people in the roles that have been in the business, that have experienced coming up in the business, to help to formulate, right, what is going to help the opportunity continue to grow for women in these leadership roles. And I'm looking forward to getting a lot of that feedback from you, as I have been asked personally to be able to share that to help the whole business continue to develop more women. And so these calls and your opinion matters. So let's jump into this conversation with Shayla. So what I wanted to do here is, as I have listened to many people share their story and things that they do well, I have a front row seat, I feel, to a lot of Shayla's path to where she's at today as just promoted in September to DVM of 2 divisions now. And so I've had the chance to work with her as a rep, all the way through as an assistant, a pilot manager, sales promotion, and now then DM and now DVM. So I see things that I know aren't commonplace, but when you're in it, sometimes you just think everybody's doing those things. And I wanted to give an opportunity through her to share aspects of her story. And so I wanted to ask her a couple questions and get her to share that with you guys. And then feel free, as we go through this, to be able to post some questions in the chat, or even live, since we're a small group here, to be able to ask her some questions to elaborate. Okay. So what we'll do here is we will spotlight, if Shelby, if you want to spotlight Shayla, that would be awesome. And so what I think the best way to start is that, Shayla, if you want to give everybody, you guys are like, yeah, she's out. She's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. I'm leaving. If you want to give everybody just, a path of, if you introduce yourself, I guess, to training, what is your vector bio to where you're at here? So what is the steps you took to get to this position right now in the vector promotion scale?
Okay. So in quick notes, I had 2 other jobs. I was 20 or 21 when I started. So I wasn't a university, like first year, second year. I had done about 2 years of university already. I was a business student, and I was lifeguarding and working at a golf course. So I did have 2 good jobs, was making good money, was getting experience. But in 2006, when I started, a lot of my friends that were a year or 2 older than me that were graduating, we were having challenges getting work. And so for me, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. You have this degree, why aren't you getting this job at a university? And some light bulbs started kind of click, being like, I don't want to go through 4 or 5 years of university. And at that stage, I went to Thailand and took a semester off. So I was going to be graduating over 5 years, and I didn't want to, work my butt off in school and then not be able to get a job. So I knew something inside me just said, you need to get experience elsewhere. So I ended up just Googling, found Vector online, came to the interview, had never heard of Cutco before. My family didn't have Cutco, and was definitely a skeptical, negative rep when I first started. I'm like, is this legit? This can't be real. It seems too good to be true. But there was just something with just the culture of things that were, that I was exposed to in the interview, and just that it was different. And it seemed like it was entrepreneurial and it would look good on a resume. So I did my training, didn't have an incredible fast start, sold just under 2K, and then was just very part-time my first summer. So I was that rep that had 2 other jobs, always busy. My training was scheduled like 3 weeks out, and did 5 demos a week. So my strengths when I started was that I was consistent, and I was that rep that would be like in my calling for PDI. Like I didn't miss that stuff. So I had those things going for me, that I was coachable and that people could count on me, but I was not a rock star. I was definitely, at the bottom of the PDI list for sure. And then at the conference at the end of the summer, was promoted to Leadership Academy. Didn't even really know obviously what that was all about, but just was like, okay, this is cool. And then in my head was like, I'll just do this for one more summer, do the AM thing, quit, move on. So did that, won a scholarship, was an AM the second summer. And then, had an amazing summer working with Angie. So I was just an AM in 2007, but then we had a lot of fun that summer. I made some good money. One of their scholarships made over 23 grand my second summer. So coming off a summer like that, you're not too quick to try to look for work elsewhere. So then Angie was, about to have another baby. And so that kind of formed into this pilot role. And do I, extend my degree from 5 to 6 years? And I said, well, what's going to look better at the end of the day? Probably graduating with 6 years of school and this amazing experience. So I did that. And then in 2009, Angie had her baby. We worked together for a couple summers. And then when I was graduating my Bachelor of Commerce from U of C, which is a business degree, I'm like, okay, time to get a real big girl job. And so as I was kind of making these decisions, which I'm sure some of you have tried to help over the last couple months, people navigate their next opportunity, I really just simplified it to 5 key things, right? Am I in a place where I'm having fun? Yes. Am I making good money? Yes. Am I growing? Absolutely. Am I in a place where I can travel? 100%. Is it flexible? Yes. So I didn't really feel, after kind of going through that list, there was a need to go to try to find something else. In Vector, we hear so many key things like the grass is green where you water it. And I was in a place where those boxes were checked off. And so I made the decision after graduating university, I got married shortly after that this was a place I was going to be for a couple of years. So I did that. And then I got pregnant with Carter in 2012. And then that just kind of put another, space of where I was going to go for that next chapter. So then I made the decision to stay at home with him for a couple months. And then I moved there was a position that opened up in our head office for sales promotion manager for Team Canada. So I was really lucky to get that opportunity. And I did that for a few years. Then I had Brooklyn, she's in 2015. In Canada, we get a year maternity leave. So just took that time to be with the kids, came back, did sales promotion for a little bit. And then I was in this next phase of life, which was you're done having kids and now what? And so I love the role of sales promotion. I did want something that was more challenging for me, in the sense that where my actions and my efforts could be rewarded in just other ways. So I went to Angie, we had a conversation, and she said, yeah, okay, I guess if you're going to look for the opportunities, you need to put DM on the table. And it was at a conference when I was running as a sales promotion manager that I ended up having this conversation with this guy, Connor. And I was like, oh man, there's just, and being a mom and being a little older now in my 30s, that I'm like, man, there's just such a need for what we do in this world, for people to have these coaches in today's world that believe in them, that coach them, that give them these skills. And there was always something in me that knew this is where I needed to be, but there was obviously a bajillion limiting beliefs, which I'm sure we'll dive into to that point. So that led me to making the decision to open up an office August 1st, 2017. So not the most ideal time to open. But I did that, hit P-Bang my first summer. 2 years after that, got DVC, and then this past year is full DVM. So it's been just 3 years since I've been back running my own office. Majority of that was working with Angie.
Right. And so just, and I'll just add a little bit to that you've hit President's Banquet each time, each fall you've had a chance, and just achieved $40,000 super bonus. So first 3-year window has kind of wrapped up and achieved that. And I think it'd be interesting if you shared with them even your mindset going DM. What were some of the, you made the decision to do it, but what were some of the fears, concerns, as you just mentioned, limiting beliefs when you took that, even though you had this resume that was like, on the resume, yes, you will do really well. Top pilot manager, top assistant, top rep, Yeah.
It's so weird, like looking back, like why that was the way it was. I think for me, it was, usually they talk about, you either have a fear of failure or fear of success. And I think for me, it was both. I think it was, what if this doesn't work? Then there was also this, what if this works? And it's really, really, really awesome. I think for me, because, to Angie's point earlier about how this really is like one of the first summers where we've recruited as many females as possible, is that, I had Angie to look up to, but majority of people that I was growing up in the business, like when I decided to become a district manager, I just didn't fit what we would call like the norm, right? I was in my 30s, I was married, I was a mom. I'm like, this is like, can I do this, right? So there was a little bit of that. And then I just flipped that around to be like, well, these are actually some of my strengths, because I do have a little bit, like Angie said, a resume. I am a mom, so I just have this different perspective. And I am a female. This is awesome, right? Like I have this mom boss caring kind of qualities. For me, it was just like, it came down to, I would never know unless I gave it a shot. And what was the worst case scenario? So I think for me, I just dealt, like, I think this business is a lot more simple than we make it sometimes. And our mind is our own worst enemy. And we just think a lot more than we do. And if you really simplify the business, you know, we place ads, we believe in people, we recruit them, we teach them how to sell ads virtually, and then we just love on them. Like it's very simple. I think it's all the other stuff that just blogs our mind, and we just can't ride the wave too much. So Tony Robbins talks about how there's like this thermometer. And for me, what I realized is that I was really fearful of being successful. I didn't want to have that image of, you know, she makes this much money or this or that. And I don't really know why that was the case. And I think it was because, you know, I just thought that perception that people would have of me would be like, I would get out of my comfort zone a little bit with that. And then really, you know, we kind of came to terms of that just money makes you more of who you are. And it allows you to do more cool things in life. And so it was just busting through, like, are you good enough? You can do this, you know, don't compare yourself to other people. So what if you make a lot of money doing this? You should, it's a good thing. You know, it's short-term pain for this quality of life. And, you know, I did sacrifice things for sure, but so does any entrepreneur. So it was like, I wanted certain things, but then it was like, I was scared to do what it was going to take. So once I just kind of figured out, as you kind of mentioned, I think Christina Wild, you talked about like your purpose. With just really getting clear on like what the heck I wanted right now really helped just my commitment. Like what you focus on grows. And I think we spend so much time just thinking, it's just like, what do you want right now? Right. It's like, and then you got to put the work in to get what you want. And it doesn't happen overnight, right? It's like the bamboo story. Like you plant the seed and it doesn't just grow tomorrow. It does take time. And what I've been able to achieve didn't happen overnight. There was lots of tears, lots of doubt, lots of conversations and coaching and things, but it can be done. And it's so fun when you just get really clear and just commit. And I haven't looked back since. So, I mean, I've grown a lot in a couple of years for sure.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I think about is when you were new, I think one of the things that was important was like, I have 2 kids. How am I going to manage a schedule when I may not have a lot of staff when I start, you know? And I remember there being a bit of a concern. Well, what if my schedule doesn't look like everybody else's schedule? Can you dive into that just a little bit about how, you know, there was kind of like, yeah.
So I think what's so important when you're first starting and building is that you just figure out what's the most important thing right now that has to happen. I think one of the blessings of the virtual world is we've got more flexibility in when we can do things than ever before. But also it's just boundaries and being committed. So one of the things that I've always done, even when I was, you know, an assistant, was I would set my schedule to say, I'm working today from this time to this time. So I didn't make a schedule based on like tomorrow, for example. I'm not like, oh, I've got an interview at 11 and then a PC at 2. Like in my brain, I'm working from 7 a.m. to 4. So then when I log on to work, like my day is like I set shifts for myself. And then in those times, everything that's the most important has to get done now. So when I was really new, I listened to a Vector Connect message every single day. You know, that kept me inspired, but I didn't try to implement every single thing that I heard. I was like, oh, when I get past this level, that'll be the next thing. So like what the most important thing is when you're new is running those key interviews, really diving into training, having a 10K fast start program, and then running the leadership events, right? Your rising star and your key staff. And I just, whatever was in my schedule, I showed up whether or not I wanted to, and I ran every freaking thing because that's what matters, right? I just ran a rising star meeting like 4 or 5 weeks ago, and there was one person on. I wasn't super excited there was one person on, but I was like, well, it's in my schedule. I'm gonna run a kick-ass rising star meeting. And I connected this girl, she had a promotion that weekend. So we don't have to get caught up in the numbers, but it's just your schedule has to reflect what is important to grow your business, right? So if you have the PR times in there that you're making calls, do you have like right now, the last couple months, my schedule every Monday has 2 hours of PR calling because that's important to my pilot office right now. So when I was new, I just had the activities and I knew that I couldn't probably PC every rep on the team, but I could PC the top 10, you know, and I knew that I had a vision of what I wanted to get to. So then I would look for key players and say, hey, we're really looking to have a field training captain. I think you'd be great. I know you just hit your first promotion, but I'd love to build with you. And it wasn't waiting for people to be awesome. Like I remember showing up to Angie's office like cargo pants and flip flops one time, and she's like, what's that? So like you have to develop people, right? So to answer the question, I would say set a schedule that reflects kind of like the other Christina said about the dog walking, right? Sometimes it's these little things that make a world of a difference, right? So being able to get that time with your wife to walk the dogs in the morning just sets the whole tone for your day. And it was just a little schedule thing. So if it's not in your schedule, it's not going to happen. And the busier you are and the more successful you get, the more things that there are to schedule, right? So just take a look, and does your schedule reflect, CPO? Does it reflect, leadership? Does it reflect recruiting? And if there's things that are happening in your schedule that aren't driving the main things, then they shouldn't be in there for now. And then as you build layers, you can add those things. And when I started, I was working, it doesn't really matter the days or the times, but I was just making sure that everything that I needed to get done was a reflection in that schedule. And it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. And I think knowing that also just takes a little bit of pressure off too, is that just because someone does it one way, there's a lot of ways to create success.
Yeah. And I think I remember when it was set up in the beginning, it was kind of when we walked through it, the concern of like, well, how can I make sure I get some time with my kids? Because people typically, we were running training Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that would leave one day. And then the decision came, well, I'm going to take Wednesday off and I'm going to work Friday, Saturday. I'm going to work, but I'm going to take Wednesday, Sunday off. And this is what I'm going to do on Wednesday. And I know that there's been lots of times where it's like, oh, I could be working, but it was, the choice you had made was, okay, 90% of the time, I'm going to make sure that this day I'm not working. And instead of focusing on what you couldn't do, you said, well, this is what I can do. Like I said, I couldn't PC maybe every rep, but I can get to the top 10. I can do this, right? And so I think as you mentioned that, something that's really important was identifying the roles that you want people to fill, even though you don't have them yet, and then talking about them, because then the people will fill the roles, right? And so you kind of got people in the seat and then eventually kept upgrading the people in the seats, right? It was kind of filling they say the seats on the bus, and then we upgrade the people, right? And that was a gradual thing I saw, that you just got people kind of committed to what you were building, and you kept sharing it with them, and they kept, coming along. When you talk about habits, what would you say are some of the keystone habits that you have? Not necessarily are they professional related to the business, but would you say are some of the habits you have in your life that's enabled you to succeed on different levels in your life, that are kind of like these non-negotiables that have helped to create mindset, physical health, emotional health, relationships, that kind of thing?
First one would be every day I kick off the day by writing down 5 things I'm grateful for, and then 10 things as if I made them happen. And that just gets me like, and whether it's like before the kids are at school or whatever, but that is something that just like when you start your day in a place of gratitude, it's really hard to have a crappy day. And it's so easy in this business, especially in the virtual world, to be pulled 900 different directions and inspired this way, that way. So having my 10 things just really hones in on like, this is what's important right now. And it's incredible to watch you check those things off, right? So it's fun to be able to achieve those things along the way. So just how you start your day. I would also say date night Wednesday. So that Brad is my husband. And so I would say at least 3 out of the 4 weeks of a month where we're planning a date night. And if we don't, it's because we're at hockey or dance or something with the kids, but that's a pretty non-negotiable, I would say, being really busy with the business, is that we have that mapped out once a week. I think about how you spend time with such key people in your business. Why wouldn't you spend that time? And we live together obviously and stuff, but it's not intentional. So I like having that intentional time away from the house. We get a babysitter. It's a good investment for us and our marriage. I like to get a time with each of the kids. It doesn't always work every week, but at some point throughout the month that I'm getting quality time with Brooklyn, quality time with Carter, whether that's food, a walk, something, doing that. And my friends are really important. So I plan at least one girls' night a month that is in the schedule. So for me, my social life hasn't gone to the wayside at all. I feel like the more that I have planned, the more urgent I get things done because I don't want to miss certain things. So that's important. I work out minimum 4 times a week. So I have a group chat that's been going for 3 years now. We call it the Fit Fam, and it's 3 girlfriends I grew up with. And so we're committed to 4 workouts a week, no matter what. Lots of times I can get more than that, but minimum it's 4. Meal prepping the meals at the beginning of the week, even just jotting down what we're going to get, and then just delegating and trying to make things simpler in any way possible. So one thing would be, we'll like order our groceries and have them delivered. It's whatever service, but if that's like the chef's plate or something, sometimes something as simple as that, for me, it's like time is money, an extra hour with the kids. So just setting yourself up for success for the week. And then I will usually about 18 months in advance, like plan out anything that's happening. So like yesterday, I printed up all the calendars for January for the next 18 months. I'll sit down over the next few weeks here and start kind of projecting fun things to look forward to. So I would say that's a key one. And then when COVID kind of hit and I knew that lots of the travel was going to be taken away, I just set an intention that it was my responsibility to create fun and things to look forward to in my own life. So just planning something to look forward to every month as a family, with friends, whatever we could do that was safe. And so we've just been doing that. So I would say lots of planning and lots of just having things to look forward to in the future. And then just anything that's important to you is in your schedule. Those would be a couple of habits. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And the only other one that I would think of that you do would be great for you to touch on is how you influence your mindset. So I know you had a routine of when you drive to the office, just, what do you listen to that helps shape your thinking when you notice you might be going like, we can get in this sometimes a spiral of like all the things that aren't going well. What do you think has helped you over the last few years to kind of keep your brain, focused in the right direction?
Yeah. So pretty much every single morning I listen to some sort of a podcast, whether that's a vector connect message. I mean, changing lives, selling knives is usually at the top of the list. I physically drive to my office a couple days a week. Days that I don't, like this morning when I was working out, I had a podcast in. So I always am listening to something when I'm in my car driving or I'm working out. It's something. I don't really watch TV. So, I mean, I'm listening to something or reading more so now with this 30-day challenge. I've been reading more than I have, in the past, only because I listen to most of my stuff when I'm driving, but making time for that. You're only going to attract people to the level that you grow. And I think that is 1,000% what got me, each campaign and each week moving forward is not listening to my own voice, right? My voice was, what if this doesn't work? And and you're stressed about money and this and that. And when, as soon as that voice is gone and there's something else, like that's way better than me, you can't help but get better. And then it's just shifting that mindset. This isn't a vector thing. This is a business thing. If you want to succeed in business, these are things you have to get good at, right? It's vector is an amazing model. There's so much opportunity for growth and support and all these things here that once I realized that this isn't a Shayla thing or a vector, or this isn't a vector thing, this is like something that you, Shayla, have to get better at, because wherever you go, you're going there. So if I'm not good at, I don't have the discipline right now to do this here, it's not going anywhere else. And for me, that challenged me and motivated me, is that people aren't motivated all the time. It's the habits, like Angie asked, it's the discipline that gets you to that next level, right? I don't like to do lots of things that you guys like to do. I don't love, but you have a why that's so important that it connects you. And then that just strengthens and strengthens and strengthens. And then people want to be a part of what you're building because you're excited, and the further you think ahead, that the more that they want to be a part of that.
Awesome. Great. I wanted to open it up. Does anybody want to ask Shayla to elaborate on anything that she covered so far? Or is there a specific question possibly that you might want to ask, that you've had on your mind that you're like, hey, this is an area that I've wondered about, how do people take it to this level? Or, I just wanted to open it up to see if anybody wanted to ask her direct questions. And I know a lot of you on the call have as I would say, front row seat to working with Shayla, but this could be, an opportunity to ask a question that you're like, I struggle with this, or this is what I've been challenged with, or I can't see beyond where I'm at. And, how did you get through that? Or maybe, was there anything she said there that as you guys took down some notes or as you listened to her, what were some of the things that stood out that you're like, success leaves clues?
I have a question.
Great.
So I will do my best to try to phrase this the way that I'm thinking of it. But when you, Shayla, when you decided to go DM and when you started running your office, when you were separating or deciding what you wanted in your calendar and what was most important to you and to your business, I'm not sure how many assistant managers you had, but do you have any tips as to what you did to decide like this has to be done now, or this is in my top, 3 most important things that have to be done, versus I need to make sure I'm spending time with my family and my loved ones and my relationships? Like where, like, do you have any tips as to where you were able to kind of draw the line or the boundaries as to like, this has to happen for work, I have to reschedule, date night with so-and-so, or, this can wait, I have to make sure I'm spending time here? Like, do you have any?
And like okay, lots of things there. Things like date night would never be rescheduled. Like that was it. Like it would be like, I would look at that like an interview. If my interview's at 2 and something comes up, I'm not like, oh, well, I'll just probably reschedule the interview, right? Like, I'm not just going to reschedule Brad, right? So I would say the things that were the most important would be like interviews, first of all, training, and a team meeting. So I knew if I'm running interviews, then I'm going to have people in training. If I'm launching them, there's a good chance they're going to sell. And then I obviously have to coach those people at a team meeting. And then PDI, but PDI didn't have to happen, like for example, it'd be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would delegate that kind of thing. And then Thursday would happen maybe a little bit later before the team meeting. So it wasn't like, it just needs to happen. So typically Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 or 8 to 9 is like a great time to do it, to kick off the day. But you might find Wednesday later in the day to drive a phone jam or something might be better. So interviews, training, team meeting, PDI, those would be like the first 4. And then I would say then from there, I would, probably definitely, I think for productivity, having a 10K PC would be like for productivity and time, if you're going to coach somebody, I would have that. And then I would say like top 5 reps or top 10, if you can fit both in your schedule. That would kind of be like phase 1. And then from there, I would then have a staff meeting. And so I would add, that would be the next layer I would add. And so I had Bianca, so she's now a district manager, but there was about 5 or 6 reps when I took over the territory. So Bianca was the only one that really was an AM. I can't remember, you were in the office in August.
And then you recruited, when did you recruit? Wasn't it was it Alexis too? Not this Alexis, but the other?
Actually, I guess there was Violet there too initially. I would just.
Alexis was recruited soon. Yeah, I remember her coming in. She was pretty young when you
had her. Alana.
No, not Alana.
Oh,
Alexis.
No, it was not
Alexa. What's her name?
It was.
Started with an A.
Her name, Lex. Anna.
Started with an A.
No,
the girl that.
Alex. No, Alex didn't come till like a week before summer kickoff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and that was the second there. So yeah, Christina. So just kind of like simple. Like, what do you have to absolutely do? And if you look at some of the documents that have been shared from SLC, like Drew Frank's, like these 5 things, like I would just look at it like your focus 5, right? Like, what are 5 things that have to happen that if you just do that consistently for the next 2 months, holy man, your business will grow, right? And then the next step is, okay, now I'm going to add a staff meeting to this. So then we put a staff meeting in. And then I always did the key staff and rising star, because one of my things is that I was really motivated to get leaders really quickly, and not so I could do less, because trust me, as a leader, you don't ever get less busy. It just becomes different. But to be able to be able to have some time where it's like, if I take a week off, my office isn't going to tank. I could trust that interviews and training are going to be run, right? So that is, but I think when Angie was saying like the vision thing is so important to think about, like at the end of 2021 summer, right? So when you think about August 2021, like that's where everyone's head should be at. How many do I want in TLA? And then it kind of works backwards. And then what happens is you have a slide at every team meeting where you're talking about, oh guys, like these are our goals for 2021. We're going to finish 2020 strong. And in 2021, we're opening up these many offices, or I'm promoting 7 assistants. This is what I'm looking for in my leaders, right? And then working that back to, what are your core values? What are the kind of people you want to attract? And just sharing that every team meeting, every training, in your interviews, in your PCs. And then before you know it, someone's at $1,000 and you're like, sweet, we're building. And I'm excited to have you. And you just get them on the bus, and they don't quit on people, right? You tie them into their goals, and they don't have to be awesome. And you just start simple, right? Hey, I'm looking for some sales leaders. You sell $500 a week. You know, I'm going to get you to help me with PRs. You know, you do that, you know, and then you just add more departments. And then once you have that going, then you add on like a PR department, then you add on SMRA department, then you add on, and then you just kind of add on those departments. But when you're just in the building stages, you can't expect to open and have 17 departments, right? And I think if you think of them like that, like you're the CEO, and then you've got your recruiting department, your sales department, your promotion department, and then you kind of have these, and I used to have file folders that had labels on them, and I would literally pull out my, you know, sales, what's happening in this department. I got this contest, I've got this, these are my leaders, these are promotions, certificates, whatever. That box gets closed. Okay, what's happening with recruiting? You know, and then you just start with 3 or 4 departments. And if you just kind of have it in your brain like that, it won't feel like everything is just like a disaster. And you'll build with time. I mean, things go by really, really fast. And in a year from today, then you add that next layer. And then the things that are new now won't be new, right? And so, yeah, so what I would do is when I launched them on the weekend, I would just be totally upfront with them and say, hey, listen, you know, I'm here to help you and coach you. I'm going to be honest, like I do have kids. So if I miss your call, doesn't mean I don't like you and don't want to help you. I'm just probably at the park. So leave a message, you know, here's a couple other people you can reach out to. I will get back to you. And you know what? You guys are all going to kick butt this weekend and we'll touch base Monday. There's any troubles, right? Like they're selling knives. They can't really mess up that bad. So I really train them to be into like they didn't need to be babysat to put an order in. Like, yeah, close the deal, put it in, right, kind of thing. And then as I kind of had people help, I mean, if people have sold Cutco and done done training and stuff, they can help coach somebody and say, you know, if you care about them, you can't really mess it up. You'll do great. And then you just develop some leaders that way. So I don't know if that helps with the priorities. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that really helps.
And I think just on that note, what I've seen Shayla does well is she, like when she talked to her calendar, she schedules in things with other people. So it's like, you know, I'm going to do this with my friends. I'm going to do this with my husband. I have a date with my bike and this is where I'm going, but it's in the calendar. So what it forces you to do, hopefully, is to be very present with where you're at and make the most of the moments when you're working, so that when you're not working, even though there's probably 74 of the things you could do, you're not doing them because right now you're here. And you said you were excited because you're like, I'm going to work hard now because I'm going to go here. This is where I'm going to be with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, my wife, my husband. This is where I'm going to be, you know? And I think if we don't do that consistently, it's okay if once in a while it falls off the wagon. But if we don't do it consistently, we start to resent the business. And it's not really the business. It's just us not putting it in the schedule and sticking to our schedule, right? We're like kind of waffling and we just need to leave, you know? So for me, I always tried to commit myself to be in something with like I would go run with somebody. So I was like, I got to go because I got to go meet somebody to go do I got to go, right? Like I can't just hang out. I got to go. Like I got to go. Yeah. And then you come back the next day and you're like, oh, the business didn't die. They're all here. They all made it and I'm okay. You know? Yeah. All right. One more question. Anyone else have a question they want to ask? Clarification. Yeah, Jessie.
So I find now, and for you guys as well, now that I just like work at home, I guess, how do you like in your mind, I don't know how I'd word that, not want to stop working, but even when I am, say, hanging out with my boyfriend and he's like, oh, let's watch a movie. I'm going through everything I could be doing, everything I want to be doing work-wise. And people tell me I'm crazy or friends, but they don't understand, like, I guess when you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. But I always feel like I could be working, or he's like, are you off now? And I'm like, I could be, but at the same time, I could be working. How do you like mentally do that for yourself to just be done and not want to think about work?
So you just got to bookend your day. So give yourself a time. So if you're done at 6 o'clock, now it's sometimes, Jessie, I will work at night. Like I usually work Monday and Tuesday night, and Brad knows that. And I just say, like, for me to justify taking Wednesday off, like there's just things I need to get done. Now, sometimes they're done and I don't have to. Most of the time they're not. And it's a choice that I make. So I feel like when I'm choosing it, there's like clear communication. So I'll just say to him, hey, you're watching Monday Night Football. Cool. I'm going to get some stuff done. And I'll take that window to put the kids to bed and whatever. But that's communicated. And then he usually knows, like, by Wednesday, like that's date night. So then we get like more present conversation time in there. But the days that, like you're saying, like I'm working at home today, so I know at X amount of time, I need to go get my children. And so I will bookend my day. So what that means is I have on my passion planner, right? Personal and work to-do list. So anything in my brain that doesn't get done, I will add and say, okay, I am human and I did everything I could possibly today to give today a 10 out of 10. And I physically have no more hours left. So I'm going to put that on the list and that will get done tomorrow. And then when I wake up, I know that's how it's going to do that. So I will do like your Slack update. You don't need to do it at 10 o'clock at night because an order might come in. You post it at 5 o'clock. So you end with that. And there's always one more thing. So if my day is going to be done at 6, like by 5:30, I'm like winding it down because I know that I need at least 30 minutes to just like check all the last minute boxes, close your computer, put your phone on, whatever you need to, and like you're off. And that's a choice because it's like a catch-22. You're an entrepreneur. And yes, if you dive in right now when you're in building, that could be a really good thing. But there's just that balance, right? Of maybe I'll work till 7 today, or go and have dinner with him, go for a workout, then circle back. And some of my most productive hours are like 8 to 10, where I'm just in think zone and I don't have my phone going off at emails and I can actually, but you know how you work best. Sometimes I'm better at like 5 in the morning when I just hammer stuff out. So I find my days are very like, back to Angie's point, when things were like in the office, I didn't do anything that didn't involve a person. So I never did admin stuff I still don't really do admin stuff during the week. Like I don't do any agenda planning or any of that stuff during the day. Like my day from 8:30 this morning until I'm finished today at 5:30 will be with a human every 30 minutes of the day, like this. And then anything admin, I have other pockets for that I'll do. So I'm not like in the middle of the day, like just, I don't have any extra space. So I would just say, try to pack the days like that. And if you can't operate where it's like 8 hours straight, do 4 or 5 hours, give yourself an intentional break or however you work. But bookending your day makes a big difference because you put your update on there, you close all the boxes, you add things to the to-do list, and that to-do list will never end, ever. It will never, ever, ever end. So I don't know if that helps.
No, and that did help. Thank you.
And be okay with that, Jessie, that it's okay that it's not all going to get done. Just know your key non-negotiables where you're like, okay, this is like at the top. What's my one thing? I got to get this. What's my one thing to do? What's my 3 things today that got to happen? I could get, there could be 30 to do, but what's the 3 things that got to happen today? And then just, you're like, okay, I got the 3. And then you leave it and you're like, okay, so tomorrow I'll revisit it. And sometimes it, like she's saying, sometimes it works better for some people to do like a shift where it's shift as in I work for a bit, I have a chunk off, and then I work for a bit because of who else is in your life. That's why these are all seasons. Like depending what your significant other, if those of you that have somebody really important in your life, depending what their schedule is like, you might actually adjust your schedule because you might be able to coordinate with that. And not everybody's the same, which is why sometimes working what someone else does doesn't always fit for you, but you can get the same activity done. It just might get done at a different window of time. Because depending who's really important in your life. But good point about the working from home. You got to be able to turn it off and turn it on. And that's why you got to be able to like be totally cool with the fact that, have no notifications. Like turn that stuff off. Like don't even get a notification. Because the reality is, if you want to see if a rep is trying to get a hold of you, you can go look at your text thread. You don't need to be notified. You go look when you want to go look. I mean, and when you're working, have your ringer on maybe or the buzzer, but have it on because that's when you're working. And when you're not, it's not. And they'll survive. And the people in your life will feel even better for the fact that they're that much more important to you right now. They're like, I'm important right now. This is exciting. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Shayla. I thought that was fantastic. Those were great questions. And I think that the questions we asked her, I think as now I'm going to have Shelby take over. She's going to share these things, some of these takeaways from this book, The Confidence Code. I think we'll just naturally progress to some of these conversations, which will be helpful for all of us. So Shelby, I'm going to turn it over and let you share these takeaways. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Angie. And Shayla, thanks so much for sharing your story. I'm always inspired whenever I hear it. I think you're an incredible leader in our business and we're so lucky to have you. So thank you for that. So for everyone that has never heard of the Confidence Code, this is the book right here. The ring lights kind of make it look weird, but anyways, I often pick up books that really revolve around women in business, statistical data about women growing in business, because one of my passions, if you've heard my story before, is to help increase the number of women that hold high-level leadership positions here in our company. And so I started reading the Confidence Code, and Angie and I happened to have a call about 3 days after I picked up this book. And I'm only 2 chapters in, but I could not stop talking about how wonderful this book was in terms of opening my eyes to just data on how women approach certain leadership opportunities, business, life, all of these different things that are really applicable to what we go through on a daily basis. And so I've got a couple of questions for all of you. And then I was thinking about just kind of diving into some of my observations. I underline everything in books, and then I often go back and look at a whole chapter, and then I add sticky notes into those specific areas, usually filled with questions to ask people. So my first question, and I'm going to look for some responses here in the chat box. This is a all hands on deck. I would love for everybody to answer this question. So I'm going to set up a little scenario first and foremost. When you are not confident in your abilities, in other words, you've got a task that is approaching, or it's maybe not necessarily a mandatory task, but there's something that you're looking to do. But when you think about where you are in terms of your ability to do that thing, you really feel uneasy, you feel scared, you do not feel confident in your ability to complete that task. Traditionally, do you A, find yourself paralyzed more and therefore you typically don't approach the task, or B, do you find yourself inspired to take action on that task? There's no wrong answer here, but just traditionally, gut reaction, are you A, where you find yourself paralyzed and afraid to take the step forward, therefore you don't typically do the task, or B, do you find yourself more inspired than ever and you go after that task? Okay, so put it in the chat box. Are you A or are you B? So we've got 2 A's so far. A, okay, A. All right, A. I feel like it depends, but usually A. Okay, so that doesn't surprise me because the data that was found, and this was just in the preface of the book. We're at the Roman numerals section of the book. I can't even tell you what page it's on because I can't read Roman numerals, but we are still just in the Roman numerals section of the book. And this chapter or this paragraph talks about how there is scientific data that shows women, when they feel a lack of confidence, allow themselves to feel paralyzed. But men, when they feel a lack of confidence, allow themselves to feel inspired. And so I always appreciate a piece of data like that just kind of leaves it there, because I think it's up for interpretation as to what you would want to do with that. But I can tell you the way that I read that is I think to myself, all right, well, the next time I feel paralyzed to do something, if I know my male counterpart would instead feel inspired, I ask myself, how can I feel inspired and go after it anyway? So I'll share with you a quick anecdote. My best friend Hadley calls me yesterday, and she starts talking to me about these 2 different opportunities she has at her company. She works for Square. Many of you probably are familiar with that company. It's a massive company, and she's been there for the last 2.5 years. She's really well respected, but she is in an individual contributor role, meaning that she's part of a team, but does not have any technical leadership title. And she was telling me how there is this opening to become a team leader. And with that comes a new promotion, it comes a pay raise, and then there's also a potential opening to switch teams altogether, which she would still be an individual contributor, but she would be on a team that handles more international accounts. But again, that opportunity does not yet exist. She just hears through the grapevine that it's probably going to come up. So she calls me and she explains to me these 2 positions. And my first reaction is, well, why wouldn't you go after the position that you know is available, that you know is a promotion, that you know is a pay raise? And I didn't ask that so bluntly, but I just started to ask her like, hey, so tell me why you're even hesitant or why you're even questioning going after this promotion. She goes, well, you know, I really feel like I just need more time in my role. You know, I really feel like I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not. You know, I really feel like it's going to put a lot of pressure on me, and I'm just not sure if I want that pressure. You know, I really feel like I might be giving up this opportunity to work with an international team. And I'm like, but Hadley, you don't even have the opportunity to work with an international team. That position's not even open. So go for the position that is. Go for the position that gives you that step above. And she even said it. She's like, I know this position would give me a better placement in the company. I know this position would give me a better track record, and it's going to be better on my resume. But for some reason, she was still holding herself back. And so I literally quoted this book, and I was like, just so you know, all of your male counterparts who are looking at that same position, who you're on that same team with, they're not in for a second guessing themselves. And you're probably the most qualified out of your entire team. Yet here you are telling yourself all the reasons why you can't do it. And you're fantasizing about this hypothetical role that doesn't even exist yet as the reason why you shouldn't go after this team leader role. And so I wanted to share that with you because it doesn't just exist within Cutco, it exists in all areas of you know, the corporate worlds or whatever you want to call it. And so I wanted to start off there by just bringing awareness to the fact that almost all of you, I know we didn't hear from every single person, but you all said A. You all said that you feel paralyzed when you feel a lack of confidence. So let's talk about that. When it comes to confidence, this book defines confidence as a sense that someone can achieve what they set out to do. All right, so it really comes down to belief. It's not even about the fact that they have a track record of achieving that one thing, but it's just a sense. It's just a belief. And so when I see all of the responses to this question as A, it means that there could be a possibility for a lack of belief in yourself. So what I've come to realize is that the antithesis of confidence is a lack of self-belief. So if we understand that confidence comes from belief, I actually, in my mind, that takes the pressure off because it doesn't mean that we have to have done the thing before. It just means that we have to believe we can do the thing. You don't necessarily have to have a track record of success to be confident. You just have to work on your own self-belief. Are you following me here? Now, does it help when you have a track record of accomplishment? Sure. But we have plenty of experience or of examples of men and women who have gone out and had a 20, 30K SC2 push. My dogs in the background, they're cheering me on. Benji, shh. Sorry guys. We've seen plenty of examples of reps going out and having a 20, 30K push, having sold 2K before that. So it comes down to the belief that they can. And so that's my second point that I want to make here that this book really emphasizes on is this idea of really increasing your own self-belief. And so the next question that I want to ask you, and this isn't necessarily a discussion question, but more so something that you might want to ponder on, is what is your lack of self-belief costing you? What is your lack of self-belief costing you? In my best friend's situation, fortunately, I got through to her and she said she's going to apply for the position. But in my best friend's situation, it could have cost her that role. But even more than that, it could have cost her that title of manager on her resume. And if she were to choose in the next 6 months to leave Square and just have a role of an individual contributor, well, she's kind of limiting herself in a way to the next role she can get. You know, it's much easier for her to go off and apply places for manager roles when she's got previous manager experience. And so when I ask the question, what is your lack of self-belief costing you, it's not just in the immediate term, it's in the long term as well. And so from the vector world, you know, DVM does not just come overnight. We know that, right? But when it comes to positioning yourself to get to a role like a DVC or a DVM, or even just a high level, you know, what I would call like a mini division district manager, where they have several offices they put out, it starts on day one with just believing that you can do it. Because when you believe that you can do it, you allow yourself to be inspired when you face obstacles and challenges and actions that you wouldn't traditionally believe in or wouldn't traditionally take on, as opposed to allowing yourself to feel paralyzed. Am I making sense? Just comment in the chat if I need to re-explain myself or go back a couple steps. Show us Benji. I just saw that. If he comes back up again, I'll pick him up. He's getting really heavy, so it's a lot of fun. All right. Now, the next question that I want to ask, so we're going to pivot a little bit here. Again, like I just went over the introduction and the preface and then the chapter 1. So I haven't even gotten to chapter 2 yet, by the way. But this is how good this book is. I highly recommend reading it. But once again, in the introduction, it talks a lot about women not advocating on their own behalf. So here's another interesting dynamic. If you were to get passed up for a promotion or for a territory, would you actually ask your DVM why you got passed up? Or would you just sit back and say, well, I guess it wasn't my turn? Or I guess I need to go work harder, and make all these assumptions about why you didn't ask for it, as opposed to actually asking why you didn't get it? And if the answer is, yeah, I would have just sat back, that means you're not advocating on your behalf. Men advocate on their behalf in almost every example this book gives. And so here's a little quote from this introduction here. It says, women have long believed that if we just work harder and don't cause any bother, our natural talents will shine through and be rewarded. And this stems from the way that our education system is set up, where it's built upon grades, and grades are very black and white, and grades come from tests, which happen to be, you know, you just sit down, you're quiet, and you show how much you know. But in the real world, that doesn't happen. And the people who oftentimes get the furthest are the ones who advocate on their behalf. And so my next question for you to ponder on is, when is the last time you've advocated for yourself? And going back to the statement that I made in the very beginning, I'm willing to bet if you've never advocated for yourself, it's because you feel paralyzed in taking that action, because you're afraid of what the outcome could be. But in reality, your male counterparts are inspired to find out why they didn't get that territory. They're inspired to ask the question. And I'm sharing this with you because it's just data. It's just evidence. And I want to encourage all of you to take the evidence and say, you know what? If that's the norm, I'm going to be beyond that. And so advocate for yourself. Ask the question. If you didn't get what you want, ask why. Or if you know you want something, say, I want it. Don't just put your head down and work hard and trust that someone's going to see you. If you've got a really great leader, they will see you. That's awesome. But it will help if you advocate for yourself first and foremost. Lexi, I am not entirely sure. I think it was probably American Men and Women, but I can find out for you for sure. All right. The next question that I want to ask, I think is pretty powerful when we think about vector in general, is your environment and what role your environment plays on your confidence. And I think that's one of the reasons why Angie and I feel so inspired to create this group, because we want to build an environment where women can feel uplifted by one another. And when they can see one woman going after and advocating for herself, that might shine a light into the fact that they can do that too. But sometimes, and I know I've definitely been in the shoes before, where I'm sitting around a round table, I am in the minority, and I feel like I can't get my word in edgewise. But if you can sit here in a group and see that everyone is asking a question, everyone is sharing their thoughts, and it can feel inspiring to go out and do that on your own. And so I want to ask you this question: how has your environment either improved your confidence, or in some cases, taken your confidence away from you? And I think about my environment that I was in when I had left Cutco originally, graduated from college, got a job in corporate America. My job in corporate America completely dismantled my confidence because I wasn't in a safe environment where I felt like my voice could be heard. And it really turned me upside down. But as I left that company, I changed my environment. I was very active in pursuing an environment where I felt uplifted, where I felt like I could be myself, where I felt like my voice was heard. It allowed me to build that confidence up again to now I feel like I can do anything, and I can say anything, and I can be who I really truly am supposed to be. And so for you right now, I think Vector is an amazing place to find that environment for yourself, but you also have to take responsibility for that environment. And if you know that there's people in your life who are pulling you down or who are making you second guess yourself, then create boundaries around that. And that's what I had to do when I left Vector the first time. Now, the final point that I want to make, and again, I'm only like, technically I'm only 17 pages into this book, so maybe we'll have more of this. The final point that I want to make is this question of how often do you attribute your own success to fate or to luck or to other people? If someone recognizes you for the success you've had, do you immediately say, oh, I just got lucky? Or, oh, it's not me. Now, by the way, I want to make sure that I acknowledge the fact that being a servant leader is recognizing when it's your people who are really driving the ship, and you're the captain here, but your people wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. And there's an important factor of recognizing that you are the one creating your own destiny. A man would say, yeah, I got it. Sometimes I can come off as arrogant. I recognize that. But make sure you check yourself when you are attributing your success to some external factor and not taking time to say, yeah, you know what? I'm making this happen. And even if no one else is around you to hear it, just repeating it to yourself and say, yeah, I'm making this happen. That's important. That's a building block towards your confidence. So I know there's probably so much more, and I'm kind of leaving you a bit on a cliffhanger here, but I want to respect time as well. Are there any questions or clarifications or comments from the group about anything and everything that I just shared? Maybe we can do a giveaway for this book between now.
Sure. Well, what would be great, Shelby, what we could do is so what Shelby just covered with you guys and what she just brought up as questions are going to hopefully, if you jotted anything down as she was sharing with them, I want you to think about if any of those questions or situations do you think have arrived in your path to where you are right now, in the culture that you're in, whether that was key staff, TLA, if you're a branch, as a district manager, division staff meetings, conversations with your DVM. I would love for you to reflect on, have there been scenarios like that where something like that has come up and then you've felt a certain way or thought a certain way? And this isn't, I'm not asking this about I'm not blaming, this is not a blame thing. This is actually just just getting you to reflect. Has it ever come up? And then knowing this data, could that be different, or would you maybe approach a situation a bit different in the future? Or do you think you can approach it different in the future in the situation you're in right now and the culture that you're in? So that might have sounded a bit convoluted, but I'm going to post, we're going to share, we won't have time here for you guys to do it, but what we're going to do is I'm going to ask your feedback on 3 or 4 questions. Okay. And these 3 or 4 questions will be in a Google form, be anonymous for you to fill out. It might take you maybe 10 or 15 minutes, depending how much thought you want to put into them. But what we're actually looking for is I'm trying to, for so long, I have just said, well, that's not how I came up, and Vector's a lot different, and this is how I felt, and I've never felt like this, and I felt like this, and da 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 da. But I'm one bubble in a very big company. Okay. So what we're really looking for is, if we're going to be able to grow and expand and develop more female leadership, then there is got to be, most likely, pockets of things that are going really well to enable, women to see themselves in these roles and take action and all these things. Then there might be people in our organization that could be educated on how to work, develop, attract, and retain and develop more females, right? Just through pure education and awareness. And it might be things that somebody doesn't even realize they're creating or doing, unless it was brought to light to say, hey, this could be something you would want to consider to bring into your culture at staff meetings, at team meetings, at training, and so on, as we develop people. So what we could do is, everybody that fills out the questionnaire, we could go ahead and put up some books to win as just by random for just filling out the questionnaire. That feedback would be helpful, because what I'm trying to do is connect the dots between me as 26 years in the business, and how old am I now? I think I'm 47, that old, and you, who's not 47 and 26 years in the business, okay? And we all have different paths, and we all have different stages, but I actually really, really want your opinion. Like, I really want it, and I really need it, so that we can either highlight all the great things that are happening to develop more women in your region, in your division, and your district, and what you're doing. And how do we help that come across all areas, so we continue to develop more women and more men, right? It just continues to grow, right? But I think there has to be some type of information conveyed, so that we can keep communicating this to help people to grow, because there's got to be things that are going really well, and there's things that could go better in order to do this, is what I'm thinking. Does that make sense, or did I just ramble really there? Because sometimes it's rambling. Okay, so what I wanted to kind of encapsulate this with is a saying, and the saying is, paving the road as we're driving the road together. So I want your opinion. So this is really important, because I feel that when we can create more women that are for and lift other women up, and create a space where you don't have to know all the answers all the time, okay? Because I think in your day-to-day world, you have to know the answers most of the time. If you think about it, as a district manager, division manager, you're kind of having to know all the answers. You kind of have to, as much as you can, give reps all the answers, give your assistants the answers, direct people where to go, lead people, show the vision, da 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 da. Okay, always having to know. If we can create a community where you actually don't always have to know, and you don't always have to be like on, and you can be in a space where it's okay to ask a colleague or share something that's maybe kind of vulnerable, because you don't always know the answers and you're tired of pretending that you know all the answers all of the time, that could create a really great environment for somebody to get through a level that maybe they're hitting this limiting belief thing that holds them back, because they just feel like they always have to know the answer. And so I want to create an environment where it's like, we're not always on all the time at the same time, but when we could come to a community, whether it's virtual, it's live like this, it's a group that you could post something and your colleague is going to say, yes, that is awesome, because you're going to post in there something that, and I know you guys all have district and division pages that you've got people rooting for you, but if we can expand that circle and it's in this area, man, I don't know. I think if I had that when how much would have it impacted my career? I don't know. I mean, I feel really grateful and I love everything I've had. But I do think that if I had the chance to interact with more women across all levels of our business more often, oh my goodness, I just think that would have been really cool. And so if we can continue to create that, that would be a big hope of mine. But the thing is, it's not just for me, it's for you. And for all the people to come after you. So that's why we need your thoughts and I need your reality, so that we can help shape you know, and as I said, pave the road that we're actually driving together. And it could entirely shape the whole leadership picture. I mean, we'd all agree, wouldn't we? Need a few more females and not just a few more. Okay. Like there is a small group of them. I think they're on one hand here that are at that level. Right. And so the more we bring up to the DM level that are succeeding and running wonderful district organizations, and it doesn't mean that DVM's for everybody. That's not what that means. But if it's a choice and you get to say yes or no, that's where I want you to be. And I want you to have that opportunity. If that at that stage comes that way, I'd really like that. And I know that that's needed at that level, but more people need to be educated on how to be able to retain and develop and attract those women. So that's that. So our next call is really going to be, and we'll be putting some questions in the Facebook group about these questions and these thoughts to be able to decide together what are the things that we want to bring to these mastermind calls to go, hey, let's bring in a speaker on this. Hey, let's hear this person's story. Hey, let's interview more women. Hey, let's learn about that. I want your opinion. And so that will be a lot of a good portion of our call on December 8th to be able to bring those voices together as well. So we'll put the link also for the Google form in the Facebook group. Shelby just posted in the chat. If you got 5 minutes, you can do it now. Great. If you can't, then we'll just put it in the Facebook group. But if you guys could take some time in the next kind of 48 hours to fill it out, there's like 4 questions. It's not a ton. That would be helpful. As I go to region manager calls, which is where I go next, I bring your feedback. That's what I would like to be able to do. I just need your thoughts, and your thoughts are valuable, and they will be anonymous. So don't worry. I'm not going to so-and-so. That's not what I'm doing. Okay. Fully anonymous. I just need the feedback so I can be able to help people in positions of leadership.
I'll mention too on the survey, you'll see the first question is name, division, region. I put that as optional. So if you wanted to fill out the survey anonymously, you can do that. But even if you do fill out your name, your name will not be attached to the quote itself unless you say that you want it to be. So, you could say I filled the survey out in the Facebook group, but I didn't put my name on it. So count me in the draw for the book. Okay. And then you could do that too. And that's really cool. All right. Okay. Thanks so much, you guys. I appreciate it. I know you've been on a lot of classes today. So thank you so much. Thanks to Shayla for offering her time, and we will reconnect in December. Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.